I was threatened. Well, if you don't agree to work extra, next year when you're doing an exam, I'm the one that's going to mark you. And if you don't pass that exam, you won't pass your F2. You don't like my skin tone? I cooked very well in the oven. God needs to make sure I was up to done. This person I was speaking to on the phone came to find me in the corridor and literally insulted me in the corridor. We're meant to do job A, but we're doing job B, job C, job D, job E for the salary of job A. I had the boldness in me, and the person was like, I hold your career in my hand. And I literally, and it was a consultant that said that to me in my face. And I literally replied, I said, no, you don't. I'm leaving.
I said it before. Hey, stop that.
Hi, YouTube family. So today I have here a very special guest. If you don't know me, first of all, my name is Nanelle Griselda, and today I have here the beautiful Dominique. And Dominique is going to share her horrible experience as a health personnel working in the UK. This is not to scare anybody. This is just to share her experience and then let you know how she went about it. You can pick some few lessons from it. So if you're interested, let's get into it. Hi, Dominique.
Hello, Nanelle.
First of all, tell us about yourself, your name, and just something brief about yourself.
So my name is Dominique. I'm a doctor practicing in the UK. I'm from Cameroon and I speak French. So English is my second language, hence the accent and my pronunciation. Yeah, some words. When I say some words, you know I have a French accent. So it's a bit difficult sometimes.
Wow. You're the first Cameroonian on my channel. So it's a
I know. You've been blessed, Nanelle. Now that you've had a Cameroonian.
Je parle un peu français. S'il vous plaît, parlez lentement. What the fuck? I want to say that.
That's good.
It's good, huh?
Yeah. You speak French, and can I speak slowly? That's what you said, isn't
it? Yeah. So, you're a doctor.
Yes.
How long have you been in the UK?
Since 2008. How long is that? 14 years.
Wow.
So I came in 2008. I did a biomedical science degree first in Newcastle University, which is fantastic. Anyone wanting to go to university in Newcastle is amazing. Then I did medical school in the south, in Norwich. And then I did my foundation year in Portsmouth. And then I went down to Plymouth. And then I went back up north to Newcastle.
So you did a biomedical science degree for 4 years?
No, 3 years.
3 years. And then you put that aside and then you did medical school from scratch.
Yes, 5 years. I applied for graduate entry as well, but I wasn't taken. So I had to do the whole 5 years instead of the 4-year graduate entry.
And you sponsored this yourself?
No. It was a family affair. Literally the last year of both of my degrees, I had 2 jobs. Literally, I'll come home, sleep 2 hours and somehow wake up and then go to another job. It was crazy. It was so tiring. And throughout both of my degrees, I worked. And you know, when you're on student visa, I can only work 20 hours. So literally, I will work 20 hours. Then when it's holiday, I'll just work. So it was quite tiring, actually. So.
Wow, you are strong. Like
I know, but
impressed.
So sometimes I'm like, it would have been good if I've just come as like someone who's working, because studying and working at the same time is quite difficult. It's very, very difficult, especially as an immigrant, because you come here from a different culture. And I came here, I didn't speak English and I taught myself English. Wow. So I did a gap year after I finished my baccalaureate back home, and I was watching BBC because I thought I'll come to the UK. So I was watching BBC to kind of like understand the accent and pick it up. Then I landed in Newcastle and the accent was completely different. And I was like, where is this person from? And everybody was speaking the same way. I was like, that doesn't sound like the lead in BBC. Like, this is very, very, very different.
I know that thing, yeah.
So I literally had to do a degree in a language I didn't speak before. Luckily, I'm quite good with languages, so it wasn't too bad. During my own journey, what I realized was coming as an immigrant was very hard because we don't come with a fresh mind. I had preconceptions. You know, everybody tells you back home how everyone is racist, how the whole situation is. And I had like a racist encounter in Newcastle, actually. And at the time, I didn't understand the accent very well. So I had a lady next to me who came from the US. She was Nigerian based in the US. And she literally was speaking back and forth. I was like, what's going on? It was very shocking. And I think that experience traumatized me because I'm a very extroverted person. Like when I'm back home, I was like, I thought I wanted to be a journalist because I just love talking and I'm just like funny and I do all these things. But that experience really shocked me. And I kind of like made me realize you're not home. There's nowhere where you are. And I kind of went into a shell. I think like the lady you interviewed before that said she came from Nigeria, just very there. Yes.
Yeah.
And I could recognize it because I felt like I couldn't be myself. And also back home, we're very extroverted. Do you know what I mean? And the English culture is very conservative. Like if you're in the north, it's better because people are more outspoken in the north. They're more loud. So you will not be the loudest. At work, I'm not the loudest, which is shocking, but I am not the loudest. There are some people I'm like, wow. This is some other level. But in the South, especially, they're much more conservative. So you can find yourself feeling quite shocked by it. So I kind of went back into my shell and it was very difficult. I mean, when I was in medical school, I was actually depressed. But I had to push myself because I was like, you know, back home, there's like, if you go home, what is there? You know what I mean? Everybody would say, oh, this is the child, you know, who came back from back home and all this. So I was like, no, I have to keep doing it and finishing it. So here, when you do medicine, you have to do 2 years of foundation years, so year 1 and 2. So it was during my foundation year that I had a very traumatic experience. So I was in the hospital and we had a patient and I had to make a referral to like another team. So I called them and I was just like speaking to them on the phone and I didn't realize that my consultant next to me was actually listening to my end of the conversation. And you know, in the hospital, people can be quite abrupt and they're overworked. It can be quite unhealthy sometimes. So I was speaking and the person was literally like insulting me on the phone, you know, first of all, you shouldn't be calling me as an F1, you know, it should be registrar that calls me. Meanwhile, it was my consultant who asked me to call him. So it was really traumatic. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Anyways, I left and then this person I was speaking to on the phone came to find me in the corridor and literally insulted me in the corridor. And people were just walking back.
And this was a local person, a British.
No, the person was an immigrant as well.
Can you imagine?
And was just insulting me. And the person had a medical student with them. So it was like a registrar. So, and then he came with a medical student and was insulting me. My goodness, I felt tiny like this. And then I'm not trying to be too religious for people who are not religious, but then I felt inside of me something telling me don't say anything because I was ready to snap. You know, I was just ready to just say like, this is crazy. I've gone through too much already for you to do this.
But where was your consultant to defend you?
It wasn't there because when this person came, he called me and he said, oh, can you come here? So I just came and just started roasting me. So there was no warning beforehand that he was going to do that. So my consultant wasn't there.
And there were people around.
There were people around going back and be like, what's going on? But in the English culture, people are not very confrontational. Do you know what I mean? If something is happening, they'll kind of like pretend it's not happening and just let it pass because they don't like discomfort or something. I don't know. Then after that happened, I literally went and he was like, what you did was unprofessional. Just because I'm an F1 calling registrar, it's unprofessional, blah, 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 blah. And even watching the medical note, he even went to the director of this department I was working with and said, you know, this. And I was like, I've not even got, you know, what's going to happen. I went back to the desk and I just sat there and I was just like, what kind of life is this? Then my consultant walked past and he literally was like, oh, how's going on with the referral and everything? I was like, well, yeah. He was like, what's going on? And then I told him what happened. He went furious. He was so angry. He was like, where is this person? I said, I don't know. I don't know where this person is. I didn't even want to call him again. He said, bleep him. I said, I don't. He said, no, bleep him. So I bleeped him. So he called the person and said, where are you? And the person said, and then he went on his own because I was like, I don't want to see this person ever in my life.
And was your consultant like a British?
No, he wasn't. But my consultant was South African, right? And my consultant went and I didn't hear anything. And then my consultant came back. He was like, okay. Because this registrar had literally said to me, you will not go far in your career. You know, I literally in my face, I was like, what is this?
So not who is he to say that?
That's what I'm trying to say. So at the end, I was like, oh my God. So I went to my consultant and I don't think if you remember the video you did when you had, there was an agency, somebody contacted you and say, we're going to sue you or something like that. And I wrote quite a long comment saying that, listen, people will fight for you. Don't think because you're an immigrant, you're like, God has forgotten you or something. So that was because of that experience, because that consultant usually was very kind of abrupt and everything. So it was the last person I thought who will actually go and fight my battle. He went and roasted the guy in front of that medical student again. And he literally pushed the guy and he came back to me afterward and said, Dominic, I pushed him to tell to my face that he told you that you will not go find your career, but he didn't. Because if he had done that, I would have ended him. I was like, okay. So he did that. Then he went and he spoke to all the other consultants, and the other consultants were coming to me. They were saying, don't worry, you know, we had your back. If they do anything, we're going to slam you. And that guy had gone to the head of department and had told him all these things. So this consultant went to the head of department. Like he went, I was just sat there, I was like, what is this? And like I said, I don't want to be super religious, but I felt like God had my back at that time. And I learned a few things from that, because one thing I learned is that as immigrants, we are too shy sometimes. Because we think we are coming to a country that is racist, we think, oh, we have to belittle ourselves so that to not bring attention to ourselves, to not bring chaos. But by doing that, you are going to get bullied. Do you know what I mean? Because what has happened to me, I don't think it was to do with racism. It's just to do with the fact that people are bullies. They will bully you. So
yes.
you have to create boundaries. You have to say no, even when it's uncomfortable. I had another one where they wanted me to stay behind, not because of any emergency, but just because it was like staff shortage. But I couldn't, because I had to finish at 4. And then I was threatened. Well, if you don't agree to work extra next year when you're doing an exam, I'm the one that's going to mark you. And if you don't pass that exam, you won't pass your F2. And by then I had the boldness in me. And the person was like, I hold your career in my hand. And I literally, and it was a consultant that said that to me in my face. And I literally replied, I said, no, you don't. I'm leaving. I'm going on time. And I left on time.
You deserve a clap. You deserve a clap.
Yeah, that same consultant did the same assessment he did, and he passed me with flying colors. So people will try to bully you. You have to establish your own boundaries, your own barriers. Otherwise, they'll just jump all over you. There's the other side to that, which is, yes, sometimes as immigrant, when you come to a different culture, you might have like, because our culture is very direct, you know what I mean? If there's something you want to say, but this culture is more like conservative and more like passive. So people won't even be aggressive, they'll be passive aggressive. So you have to kind of adjust yourself to that. So if you can't go straight and just say something to somebody directly, you have to just speak in a different manner, if that makes sense. And to go back to the first experience I had with my consultant, because my consultant was hearing my side of the conversation, when he went to speak to that person, the person was like, oh, but she was rude, or she was this. The consultant said, no, I was listening to what she was saying from the beginning to the end, and she didn't say anything rude. So what exactly do you falter on? And he was like, oh, well, you know, and then that person said something quite interesting, because the person then said, when he himself was an F1, he called a registrar and the registrar insulted him. So he internalized that. And some people, that's what they do. They go through a lot of traumatic things and they just absorb it so that when they get to the top, they can do the same thing to you.
Other people.
But you have to stop it. So I literally did. And literally since then, I've had a blast. And like I was commenting, I like commenting on the videos. I was saying that as immigrant, we need to stop being afraid, because I've done a lot of jobs. So I've worked in the NHS. I've worked in the Department of Work and Pension for like functional assessor, which is when you have clients coming in with conditions and you have to decide whether or not their condition will make them not eligible to work or something like that. Yeah. I've done that. I've done locum work. I'm now working as a clinical research physician. There's so many more things you can do. And all the jobs I've done, nurses can do as well, because functional assessor nurses, usually the salary is about 45,000. That's all before tax. For clinical research physician, for a nurse, it can start at like 35, but you can argue up to like 45 to begin with. But you can progress like lead clinical nurse or senior clinical nurse. You also have occupational health nurse for nurses. There's so much opportunities. And I tell that to people all the time, don't limit yourself. I feel like sometimes we just come and as healthcare professionals, we're like, we have to be in the hospital or in the care home. I watch a video with your friend. It's so funny when you argue about care home and it's like, he doesn't like it. The one that's in London now, I think. But there's so many other things that you can do. You know what I mean? I don't think we should limit ourselves. Once I stop thinking I'm an immigrant, I start thinking, no, I am literally living here and I'm going to behave as if I'm living here. Yes. I'm not a second-class citizen. I am, you know, it is me. You are here fully on a full-pledged visa or whatever. You have the same right as everybody else. And I started putting my boundaries. People started backing away. You know, people will stop bullying me. They wouldn't be coming and be like, oh, what do you do? I say, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to do that. I have to go home. You have to learn the own buzzwords, you know, like, I'm not doing that. Saying in a way that's very kind, loving, but firm, like, it's not going to happen. Yeah. And I've had a blast, to be honest with you. And I know you said Northern Ireland is like 550 for a 2-bedroom flat. I'm living in a 2-bedroom flat in Newcastle. I pay 500. It's true. I pay water bill, which you don't. But there's so much to life, I feel like, in the UK. There's so many different cities. There's so much opportunities, especially for a healthcare professional. Like, you don't have to stay in a place that doesn't suit you. Like, I'm doing 9 to 5. I don't do night. I don't do weekends. You know, I just come in.
Just comfortable.
It's very comfortable. It's like you don't have to struggle. And that's what I realized. I thought you have to struggle. You have to go through all these experiences, but you don't have to. And I think also as Africans, sometimes we feel like we have to persevere to everything, especially because we come sometimes from hardship, you know, and even some of us who come from like middle class families, our parents told us, you have to hustle, you have to struggle, you have to do this. So when you come here, you have that mentality, but your appetite has to change with the country you're in. Yes, back home, work is scarce. I've never worked back home because I've done high school, then I went back. But people who've worked home told me how difficult it is to get a job, then to secure the job, then to do these things. So when you come here, you think it's the same thing. You think you have to say yes to everything your employer is saying. You think you have to.
And another thing is, because most of us, you see, when we come, we don't come with permanent resident status. So you want to be careful, tread cautiously until you're a permanent resident. Because it's like everything you're doing, even if you know that you're being treated unfairly, it's like you're so scared to do something because you're afraid that it could land you in trouble and then you could lose your chance of being a permanent resident in the future. So you just want to calm down and take things slowly and then, you know, accept all the bullying and everything until it's like you're waiting till you become a permanent resident.
I know what you're saying, Nanel, but like you said in the video with Tosin, it doesn't work because the effect on your mental health cannot be reduced. It will affect your mental health so much so that when you do get that permanent residence, it's not you anymore. You've now become a shadow of yourself because you've repressed yourself for so long that now you're afraid of leaving. Now, when you have that permanent residence, you don't want to leave your job because you're afraid. You don't want to go to another opportunity because you have literally put the seed of fear in you and you've watered that down through all the bullying, through everything. Now you have a big tree.
Do you do part-time motivational speaking?
No, I don't. I don't. But that's what happened to me.
You remind me of TD Jake's daughter.
Do I? Which one?
The one that
because you do. And I became this person who was so afraid. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of being stopped by the police.
And it's not like you're guilty of something. Like
not that you're guilty of something. I'm going to say something that's very unpopular, but I'm going to say it still. As immigrant, we need to diversify the people we hang around. Because when you're with a lot of immigrants, a lot of the time the stories are so negative. Oh, I have a friend who got fired. Oh, I had a story about this person who told me he was in a job and his supervisor and his director both were treating him very badly. And he decided to stay because it was like, I'm going to persevere, you know, I'm not going to let them win. I was like, they've already won. Now you have to decide. No, I said to him, now decide what price you're going to give them. Is the price going to be your resignation to go to a better job? Or is it going to be something else? I mean, he stayed and he got in so much trouble, they referred him to the GMC. Then he had to go to court. And then finally, the court agreed that he was wrongfully dismissed. But the price that the court said they should pay him wasn't enough to cover his lawyer's fees. So I said to him, what did you gain? When you go to a workplace that's toxic, that's unhealthy, they have already won. Now you decide what price they win. Do they win your resignation? That's fine. You have the job. I've had it before. I was in a job that was very unhealthy. I used to cry, like the whole journey, just cry. And then my brother said to me, what are you doing? I was like, no, but I have to persevere. He said, no, you don't have to. You're not a slave, okay? There are other jobs. And I went to another job, a 25% increase in salary. And the promotion that job didn't want to give me, in 6 months, the other job gave it to me. The phrase I hate is like, the grass is not always green on the other side. And I keep telling people, it depends if I'm the gardener.
You're talking to me, honestly, you are.
Yeah. I was like, if I'm the gardener, the grass is green everywhere I go because I'm the one that waters it. I'm not waiting for someone else to water it. So stop with that thing. And people who say the grass is not always green on the other side, they've not been on the other side. They know 10 people who supposedly have been on the other side and it wasn't good. But you are not the same as other people. You have different skills. The job I do, some people might think is boring. I like it. The job you do, some people might think is boring, but you like it. So sometimes we tend to victimize ourselves. But a lot of the stuff we go through, other people go through it as well. Everyone goes through it. Because I've always been like the only Black person everywhere I've worked, in most places I've worked. And you can see that other people go through things as well. It's not just because you're Black or because you're a woman or because you're this. It's because people are bullying. If you are not Black, they'll find someone to bully you with. They will say, I don't like your nose, or I don't like your lips, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. And me, I'll just reply, listen, my lips are mine. So you don't like it, it's fine. I like it. I love it. You know, you don't like my skin tone? I cooked very well in the oven. God needs to make sure I was up to done. So, don't get me started. I'm like, no. But we need to start validating ourselves, you know? And because you have too many negative experiences. Somebody was like, oh, the police stopped me one day, blah, blah, blah. The police only stopped me once. I was walking and they were looking for somebody who had gone missing. They were like, are you this person? They've always been nice to me. But sometimes when you surround yourself with people who had negative life experiences, you become so afraid because you keep thinking it happened to you. But it won't happen to you.
It's very true. And it just affects your confidence. I remember when I first started work, I was just being scared, hearing all negative comments. You're going to lose your pin if you do this. You're going to lose your license if you do this. And this and that. It put fear in me. And I had pre-shifts anxiety every time. It's like every time you're going to work and you're like, oh God, what's going to happen today? Something happens and you're like, oh God, this is it. I'm going to lose my license. And you are so scared. It doesn't push you to do things. I was so scared to do stuff that I knew I could do, stuff that I knew that I've been trained to do, but I was so scared. I perfectly understand.
But it doesn't give any fruits you want. And sometimes what we do is we put ourselves in a prison, we hold the key, and we keep saying, oh, someone put me there. It's like, well, you have to come out. What you want is on the other side of that prison you've put yourself in by your thought process. People have told you, this country doesn't like you. People are racist. You lose your pin, you do this. And I tell people, even if you do lose your pin, you will not lose you. You can still make up a life. Stop thinking in a way that's so narrow-minded. Because like I said, there was so much fear. And I internalized that fear to a point that I became sick. And I was never sick. I was like, what is this? Because I stressed myself so much. I'm going to tell you something that happened, right? I went to a shop, H&M, and I was buying something. And as I was coming out, the thing buzzed, you know, the gate that they have. Another guy, the stuff buzzed for him as well. But his reaction was like, oh, this thing again. My reaction was immediately victimized. Oh, it's because I'm this. Because and I started saying to myself, oh my God, what is this? Do you know what I mean? So I actually went back and she said, oh, I'm so sorry. This thing has, like, we are too afraid. It's crazy. And I think it's because of the stuff we watch. We keep watching about people going through this. It's like, no, live your life. You will not go through the same thing in Jesus' name. You have to go through your own life and go through your own battles. If you go through something difficult, you have to trust and believe you have the backbone to go through it. But don't stay in situation longer than you have to because, oh, we've just been told to persevere. I tell Africans, you need to learn to let go. We've been told too much to persevere and to suffer and to struggle. I'm like, I'm not here to struggle. Please. When I struggle, I start getting pimples. This skin needs, you know, good treatment. I go to have a full body massage twice a month. I'm just enjoying my life. You only get one life. You have to live it, you know?
I've learned a lot.
I'm talking so much, sorry.
Let me ask you this. You were fortunate that day with the first incident you spoke about. Your consultant stood by you and defended you. Yeah. What if there was no consultant? If somebody faces such a situation and there's nobody to come to their defense, what advice do you have for them?
I think I'll go back to the beginning. I'll say something that people don't like to hear sometimes. I'll say, use your emotions. Cry. I'll say cry. We are too strong. No, I'm serious. We are too strong. I've been in a situation where people have come, they've just cried and the problem went away. They've just come and show their emotion. The issue is that we have...
Won't crying make you look weak?
You have to look weak. Who protects people who are strong? Do you know why my consultant helped me? Because I looked like I was going to cry. And he was like, what's going on? And people have said it to me before. I don't want to look weak. You are weak. In front of that registrar, I was weak. I couldn't defend myself. I'm an F1. How am I going to defend myself? I need someone stronger who has more hierarchy to back me up. That person's not going to come when I'm up. You know what I mean? When you're like, I've got it, I don't need your help. Why are they going to help you? But the fact is, it's not like you are playing on the emotion. The fact is, you are weak in that situation. You need help in that situation. You need to show people that you need help.
This person is a man. You know, men, African men, they don't want to cry. They don't want to show that they are, you know.
Well, you can still find a way to go to the person and say, I don't like the way this person talked to me. I don't think that is fair. You have to find a way to do this and that. Find whatever works for you. But I say to people, you cannot live life and always be strong and expect to be helped. Nobody helps the strong. And the fact is that we pretend to be strong because at that moment, I'm a strong person, right? But at that moment, I was weak. I was shattered. How can somebody, you've just started your career journey and somebody said they will end you? Like, how are you supposed to feel? That's what I'm saying. Go for help. I was going to cry because it was overwhelming. But you have to be people like that. I don't want to look weak. You are weak. We are human beings. Nobody is, even Superman has with a kryptonite, okay? Even Hulk has, I don't know, something. You know, everybody has, like, why is it that us African, we are like one of the few people that never want to look weak? Yeah. But what makes it look superhuman? And sometimes that's why people keep bullying you, because you give the impression that nothing can break you. So people keep pushing you to the breaking point. No. It's
like you said, fight your battles. Okay, fight then. Like,
yes. Yeah. In my job now, like when I have my boss, like there's something, I just call my boss, I said, yeah, I can't handle this. So she sorts it out. Because it's not my duty. A lot of us, we come to a job, we're meant to do job A, but we're doing job B, job C, job D, job E for the salary of job A. And then we are burnt out. Then we go home, then we shout at our husband, scream at the kids and do this thing. That is not fair. And we are breaking the family because we go at home, give us our best, and we give our own family our worst. You have to look weak at work when you have to, so you are strong at home. My priority is my personal life. It's not my professional life. So I'm not going to go to work, get stressed.
Exactly, because if there's no personal life, there won't be a professional life.
It won't be. And somebody said to me, on your tomb, nobody's going to write your CV. You've not gone to anyone's tomb and they've written their CV. or that she was such a good employee. No, there'll be you a wife of this, a mother of this, a daughter of this, a sister of this. This is where your identity comes from relationships. But a lot of us, our work is like our God. You go in, yes, ma, yes, sir. No, I can't do this. No, you get stressed. And I had this lady, she was so lovely. She was smiling and everything. And then she quit, and then she told me, Dominic, I couldn't do it. She was smiling at work because she was screaming at home. She would go home, scream at her kids, scream at her husband. And they were like, what have we done to you? That's how you have family breaking down, because you put your work first, but your work will never give you what your personal life gives you. All your work can give you at most is money and some form of satisfaction. That is it. But at work, you are expendable. In your personal life, you're not expendable. But at work, you are expendable. So you have to treat work the same way. Work is also expendable. So even if you lose your pin, you lose everything, that's fine. You still have you, and you can rebuild. But you can't rebuild when you are sick, when you are unwell, when mentally you're breakdown, you are the shadow of yourself. You cannot rebuild. So I always put myself first, priority first. My break, I have my full break. I leave the office. You cannot reach me. I leave the office for my break, and I come back afterwards, because you're not paying me for my break. So I'm not staying for my break. I only do overtime if you've agreed to pay me overtime, and I need to have it in writing. Everything you ask me to do extra, I need to have it in writing if it's not in my contract, and you pay me my overtime. If you're not paying me my overtime, I have things to do, because me in the afternoon, like I said, in the evening, I find things to do. Either I'm going to go to the cinema, or I'm going to come home and relax, or I'm going to do something to beautify myself, or to read a book, or travel, or do whatever. So if you need my evening time, my personal evening time for work, you need to financially compensate me. And if the financial compensation is not enough for me, I'm not doing it. I'm saying, I'm sorry, I can't. I have to go home.
I like you, Dominique. I like you.
Yeah. Wow. I had to let it go, because I felt so bad. But I can't say, I was like, no, but you have to, if you keep saying, you have to realize that when you say yes to something, you've said no to something else. So if by saying yes to you, I have to say no to myself, I can't pay that price, because I live with myself 24/7. Nobody else does. I have to live with my thoughts. I have to live in my body. I have to live in everything. No one else does. So I'm not going to give you something that I know, is going to take from me. I can't do that. And I've done it in the past. I said I was very unwell. My body was like, what are you doing? I couldn't even go for walks, because I like going for walks, to maintain shape and everything. I couldn't do it because I come home, I'm so tired. I wanted to cook. I couldn't cook because the energy is gone, because you've given everything at work. I was like, what is that kind of life you're living? And at the end of the day, you are so expendable. If you quit, the company will go on.
Yeah, they'll get, if you die, they'll get somebody that. Yeah.
And what was the point? I didn't want to live my life saying, well, at least I wasn't arrested by the police. At least I didn't lose my GMC. I was like, no, I'm sorry. I want to finish my life and saying I lived a great life. Whatever they took, I got more in return. You can have this. I don't mind, as long as I stay with me, because my biggest asset is me. It's no one else. My father used to tell us, like, your biggest asset is your mind. You have to be very careful about your mind, because nobody can steal that from you. You can only give it away. Like this.
You need to come back, Dominique.
I'd love to come back. That's a subject that
about this proper. Yeah, I'm thinking of inviting Frey. She's also a band 8 nurse, and she's an AP. I had an interview with her. Maybe, and then you, and then maybe some other person, and then we'll actually sit down and then digest this topic properly. You understand?
Yeah, that's good. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that right now. But I have personally learned a lot. Take care of yourself first.
Thank you.
And then do not have fear in your mind. We should just do away with all the negative thoughts and then preconceptions before we come. I've really learned a lot.
No worries. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Swear I won't forget.
Dominique, my lipstick looks. Let me put some retouch. Where is it? I can't even find it.
Just put some Vaseline on. I like Vaseline.
I hate being broken. I feel like an ocean filled up with emotion.